His whole season turned around with that pressure start.
In the meantime, the Mets are starting to develop an MVP candidate. David Wright's been on a tear since the All-Star break, and he really kicked it in when the Mets needed it the most against the Braves with our Coors Light cold blast.
Well, he hit the home run, the hanging slider, and the first pitch off of John Smoltz. You see his reaction there. We saw David pick it up a little bit more on that last game in Philadelphia, and I think then that game right there, he kind of stepped up to the plate, earned his stripes, so to speak. And he's, to me now, he's a seasoned veteran.
So David Wright and the Mets will watch Pedro Martinez take the mound for the first time this year. Tough opponent, Aaron Harang, a 14-game winner on the mound for Cincinnati. All the action coming up on SNY. Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by the New York State Smokers Quit Line. Call 1-866-NY-QUITS for free patches, gum, or lozenges. By Geico, 15 minutes can save you 15% on car insurance. Visit geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. By Hummer, visit hummer.com to check out the H3 Hummer like nothing else. By Locker Room Memorabilia, the exclusive memorabilia company of David Wright and Sean Green. Visit us at lockerroommemorabilia.com. And by IO Digital Cable, the leaders in HD and presenting sponsor of the Mets in high definition. You see in HD? This year, when you can't be home to watch your Mets on SNY or CW11, check out MLB.tv. Watch every out-of-market Mets game of the season live. Catch those you missed on demand or listen to every radio broadcast. Sign up today. Visit Mets.com, where baseball is always on. Mets and Reds opening a 3-game series. Pedro Martinez has completed his warm-ups and coming on in from the bullpen. You can only imagine what thoughts must be going through his mind as he gets set for his first big league start in more than 11 months. First pitch coming up from Cincinnati. The view across the Ohio River at Kentucky on the other side, outside Great American Ballpark. And Pedro Martinez, having completed his warm-up tosses. He was certainly a presence in that Mets dugout over the weekend in Atlanta. And even on the day he's pitching, he's still in a dancing mood.
He's a winner.
You think they were ready for this guy to get back?
I think so. I just think it really lightened up that whole clubhouse, which really had kind of a shroud hanging over it.
Well, for all the energy Jose Reyes brings on a daily basis, there's just something special about this future Hall of Famer. He's one of a kind. Well, here's the Geico Mets lineup for today. Same lineup as yesterday. Carlos Delgado had having a terrific road trip so far in Philly and in Atlanta. Moises Alou has incredible career numbers against Aaron Harang. 4 home runs in just 15 at bats against one of the best pitchers in the National League.
And who might that be? Well, there he is, Aaron Harang, 6'7". He's a big guy. He got a win against the Mets back on July 13th, an 8-4 Cincinnati win. He went 6 innings, gave up 3 runs. And you see his strikeouts. He's a big strikeout guy. And every year he's gotten better.
Jose Reyes leads things off, and Reyes trying to bunt. Fouls it back, and we're underway in Cincinnati on a hot afternoon. Temperature right around 90 degrees. Reyes at 295, 10 homers, 49 driven in, and that on-base percentage has been coming down now for the last several weeks.
Well, he's not feeling that great. We thought that first game in Atlanta he was on his way, but he's been doing that a lot, Gary, and that's popping up.
Adam Dunn with the play in left field, and Reyes retired for the first out of the game. So 1 out and nobody on. Luis Castillo coming up.
And we'll take a look at your Rico Reds defense. Ken Griffey, member of the all-time Golden Glove outfield team, the 50-year Rawlings Golden Glove team. He's the right fielder. What a great career he's had. He's very close to getting, what, how many home runs, Gary? He's very close to, what, 500 career? 600.
Approaching 600
yes.
Now. Luis Castillo just 1 hit in his last 20 at-bats as he continues to try and shake off the effects of his sore right knee. His batting average for the season down to 296.
271 for the Mets. And that knee is bothering him. And a couple bunts that he made, a close play in Atlanta, I thought he was out by a step. It could have gone either way. I think with his knee, if his knee was healthy, he beats those balls out.
And I think at this point he's looking to bunt at least once or twice in every at bat. And that's got to have something, Keith, I think, to do with the knee. The fact that, I mean, he always is looking to bunt, but even more so right now.
Well, he's not getting around on the inside pitch, and that means to me he can't turn on the ball, and the knee is very important. The legs are very important in hitting.
And now Harang, who walks very few, falls behind on Castillo 3-1.
Right about that. Harang 44 walks in 190 innings.
In fact, he's in the top 5 in the league in fewest walks per 9 innings, in the top 6 in the league in most strikeouts per 9 innings. Nearly a 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. And Castillo on 3-1 drops down a bunt. No play for Encarnacion, and Castillo's got a bunt base hit. So the Mets have a 1-out base runner.
Well, I couldn't put a more perfect bunt down. Right down the line. Encarnacion, he's got to be playing a little bit shallower. I mean, closer. Got to respect the bunt.
But again, on 3-1, how often do you see a guy bunt for a base hit?
Well, if you're going to give it to him, like Encarnacion did. I love that name. He's going to take it.
Here's David Wright hitting at 317. And he's just been tearing it up since the All-Star break. Over the last 33 games, David's hitting .403. And he takes a strike from Harang.
Well, you can see right now, I mean, we're talking, David has just been awesome. And it just started, I mean, his second half has been terrific. But that 4th game in Philadelphia, he really just picked it up a notch and has been going ever since.
That's when the Mets fell behind 5-0 and 8-5. And Wright was the catalyst. Even though they didn't win that game, in retrospect, that game feels like it was almost some kind of positive turning point, even though it was a game where they got swept in that 4-game series.
A tough loss, but they fought back from deficits, a 5-0 deficit, an 8-5 deficit. They showed a lot of heart. And obviously in Atlanta they did.
0-2 to David, and he fouls it away. Well, Aaron Harang is a huge guy. He's 6'7", 275 pounds. He's not a particularly hard thrower, but he hides the ball very well, the hitters will tell you. Comes off a 2-hit shutout in his last start against the Pirates, and over his last 18 starts, he's 9-1 with a 2.86 ERA. He has just been front and center, one of the best 3 or 4 pitchers in the National League, and doing it in a hitter's park.
Ooh, just missed there.
And you know what's fascinating about Harang is that his ERA is actually a run better at home. As you look at the last pitch to Wright, just missed. His ERA is a run better at home than it is on the road.
He's 7-2 in 14 starts at home with a 2.97 earned run average, below 3.
An ERA of 4 on the road. I mean, this is one of your hitter's havens. But Harang has been able to better than survive here as Wright grounds a base hit into left field. And so the Mets, with back-to-back 1-out hits, trying to fashion a first-inning run against Harang.
When are pitchers ever going to learn to stop throwing David Wright breaking balls with 2 strikes? He is such a good breaking ball hitter with 2 strikes.
So 2 aboard for Beltran. The Mets beat the Reds 3 out of 4 at Shea right after the All-Star break. The only game the Reds won in that series was won by Aaron Harang. Carlos Beltran riding a 5-game hitting streak, 9 for 19 in the 5 games. 26 home runs, 86 driven in, and he takes a strike from Harang.
Well, you know, you said that Harang is not a particularly hard thrower, but it seems to me he really doesn't have as good fastball today. He threw much harder, I feel, in his start in New York. He's got a great breaking ball. He's got to be very careful with Beltran. He's red hot.
And Carlos takes it low. Well, Beltran's hit 26 home runs this year, and 20 of them have come on the road. Hit one in Atlanta on Saturday afternoon. And this is just, I mean, we've been coming here for a few years now, and this is just a great home run hitter's ballpark. Driven the other way and foul. The batting average not as starkly contrasted as, say, Delgado's is. Delgado's hitting far higher on the road than at home, but the home runs, 6 at Shea and 20 away.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Carlos prefers to play on the road as opposed to at home in New York. You notice Harang keeping the ball down on Beltran. You must keep the ball down on Carlos. You get that ball belt high and up, you're in for a world of hurt.
1-2 to Beltran, and he takes that one low, and it's 2-2. Two aboard and one out. 2-2 to Beltran, and he pulls one foul.
A nice up and in fastball right there. I mean, if you're going to go upstairs on Carlos, it has to be up and in to send a message. And if you miss, you better make sure you don't miss off the plate. There's that great Cincinnati red logo behind home plate.
2-2 to Beltran. Tries to lay off. Did he stop the swing in time? Nope. He went around. Third base umpire Hunter Wendelstedt with the call. Beltran down swinging for the second out.
Well, this all set up by the fastball up and in. Now he comes with a hard curve in the dirt. Carlos can't lay off. And yes, he did break his wrist. Whatever the rule is, he did swing.
Does anybody actually know what the rule is? It's all about intent if you read the rule book.
But yeah, there's Mr. Red. I love that logo. That used to be on the old 1960 cards. I'm showing my age. I love that logo.
Mustache looks like it's from the 1890s. So here's Delgado, who was going great guns on this road trip till yesterday when he struck out 3 times and went 0 for 3. But nonetheless, 11 RBIs in his last 8 games.
Carlos, we've been noticing Carlos on this road trip stepping out a lot, dictating, not letting the pitcher dictate to him. And another guy, he loves that ball down and out over the plate. Wow. Yeah, Mr. Red. All the old baseball cards, they had Mr. Red there.
They thought about orthodonture for Mr. Red.
Has he got any tonsils in there?
Two on and 2 out, and Delgado takes a strike on the inside. And Harang quickly ahead 0-2.
You got to believe that Harang is very sneaky, because the radar usually is favorable. I mean, it adds most radar guns add a few miles per hour, and he's been 90, 91, Gary. So he's got to be sneaky. Got a great breaking ball. We know that.
Now it's 0-2 to Delgado, and he strikes him out with the fastball. Harang gets Delgado on 3 pitches, back-to-back strikeouts to get himself out of a first-inning jam.
Well, came right, doubled up inside. Nice pitch.
So the Mets get 2 hits but fail to score, and now a moment that Met fans have been waiting for since the day that Pedro underwent surgery last October 5th. The day when Pedro Martinez would return to a major league mound. And you know, every player gets butterflies on opening day, and for Pedro Martinez, the 3rd of September, a day he'll always remember, he's got to have some butterflies today.
Sure he does. And you know, it's like every opening day season. This is his opening day, and there's got to be a little more concern here, a little more anxiety, because you're coming off a serious surgery. And it's just amazing to me, you know, in my day, in the days prior to mine, you hurt your shoulder, you were finished. You're adios amigo. Go find a job. Today, the medical science has come so far, and these guys can come back and come back stronger. So I've just been waiting for this moment. I'm very excited about this start.
It's a somewhat different Pedro Martinez in that you look at him up close, and he looks a lot broader through the chest and shoulders. He's done a lot of work that he might not have done in the past, just in terms of strengthening his entire body. And he'll tell you, I mean, that this rehab was far more strenuous than he expected it to be. He went through some shoulder problems back in 01 and came back from that and worked what he thought was fairly hard. But it paled before what he had to go through for the last 11 months to get here.
Well, you are right about him being much stronger in his upper body Pedro was always kind of a slight fella. And now he's got definition. He's much broader in the chest. You can see it right there. It's plain to see. You can see how much stronger he is in his shoulders. And you know, like I said early, this could be a godsend. This could extend his career.
Well, many power pitchers need to redefine themselves later in their careers. Pedro's now 35. He had already begun that process over the last couple of seasons as his fastball had diminished. And now he comes back with a repaired shoulder. Here's your Ford Reds starting lineup. A couple of very hot bats not playing today for the Reds. Norris Hopper and Jeff Keppinger, because Pete Mackanin, the interim manager for the Reds, stacking his lineup with as many left-hand hitters as he can find, including Ken Griffey Jr. with those 592 career home runs. Josh Hamilton, who's been a pretty good story in his own right this season, will lead off for the Reds as Pedro gets set for his first pitch in a year. And it misses for ball one.
And keep an eye on that radar gun, you folks back home on your couches.
In his 4 rehab starts, they got him up to 88 as that curling ball will stay fair on the grass, and an infield single for Josh Hamilton. Well, Pedro had him fooled, and Hamilton cued it off the end of the bat, and he winds up with an infield hit.
Well, this is not a changeup. This is a fastball, and Hamilton just cues it.
Shades of Aaron Rowan's hit in Philadelphia last week.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
That one stayed on the dirt. This one took a right turn on the grass to stay fair. And so Pedro will immediately have to pitch out of the stretch as he takes on Alex Gonzalez. This has been an interesting year for Gonzalez. He's actually played pretty well, but it's been a distressing year off the field. His young son has been ill, and he's been away from the team on 3 or 4 occasions to take care of him. And Pedro and LaDuca still trying to get back on the same page. It's been a while. Pedro made 4 rehab starts, none of them above the single A level. And you just wonder whether that has any impact at this point on his performance here. There's a strike call to Gonzalez, 0-1.
Well, you see the radar gun right there at 82, twice at 82, and once that one at 83. So we'll see if he can pick that up. That's not what you'd call a major league fastball.
And the curveball misses. 1-1 to Gonzalez.
Well, there's his first curve.
Pedro said he was most concerned about his command of his changeup. He said, it's my second best pitch. It's the last thing to come. And he was hoping that he could have his full command of that pitch. We haven't seen one yet. Fastball drilled to left, but right at Alou, but it goes over his head. And one hop against the wall. Hamilton will go to third. Into second comes Gonzalez, and the Reds have second and third and nobody out. Well, Gonzalez hit it hard, but it fooled Moises Alou, and he misplays it into a double.
Well, Moises, so the fastball up and in right there, out a lot of plate, nicely done by Gonzalez, and Alou just misplaced this. And Alou's been playing such good outfield, and even doubled up his mistake by throwing to third base here instead of trying to throwing to second base and trying to prevent the double.
So Ken Griffey Jr. will come to bat with second and third and nobody out. Griffey with 29 home runs, 86 runs batted in. Well, Pedro made his first start as a Met here in Cincinnati on opening day in 2005, and in that start he gave up 3 runs in the first inning and then proceeded to not allow another hit the rest of the way and struck out 12 in 6 innings. Would have had a win but for a bullpen meltdown that day. Griffey 1 for 14 in his career against Pedro, and he lines one to center. Beltran coming on, makes the catch. Hamilton tags, heads for the plate. Beltran's throw not in time. Over to third goes Gonzalez, and it's 1-0 Cincinnati. Good throw by Beltran, just a shade too late. Griffey drives in his 87th run, and he hit the ball hard.
Well, this throw's right on the line, but he did overthrow the cutoff man, and alertly Gonzalez read that and went to third base in advance. But of course we know that Carlos has a great arm, and he almost pulled it off here. just got in.
Duca coming up to the front of the plate to grab that throw. So a run is home. Gonzalez at third and one out. And now Pedro will take on Brandon Phillips, who's had himself a terrific year. And the Mets bring the infield halfway in at second and short. The curveball swung and missed. 0-1. Phillips had an enormous series against the Mets at Shea back in July. Went 7 for 16, couple of homers, including a grand slam off John Maine. Drove in 8 runs in the 4 games.
He's a free swinger. He's only got 26 walks on the year, so he doesn't like to take.
Hit hard through the hole and into left field, a base hit. Gonzalez comes in to score. It's an RBI single for Brandon Phillips, and they're hitting Pedro hard in this first inning. It's 2-0 Cincinnati.
Well, the curveball, not a bad one, but just a little bit too much of the plate. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Well, Pedro said all along that the start that will be of most interest to him will be his second start. And I think he looks at this very much as trying to feel his way against major league batters whom he hasn't faced in 11 months. Now here's Adam Dunn, who has 36 home runs. Phillips goes. Loduca's throw not in time. Pedro played him no mind at all, and Phillips has his 26th stolen base. Phillips making a bid for a 30-30 year, 26 steals now to go with 26 home runs.
Well, the Reds can play loosey-goosey. They're out of it. They've had just a miserable season. And a good jump by Phillips there. The Reds, of course, 62 and 75. Played better under interim manager Pete Mackanin.
They were 20 games under 500 when Jerry Narron was fired. They're 7 games over under Mackanin. 1-0 to Dunn. And Dunn pulls one down to first. Delgado will take it himself. And that's the second out as Phillips moves over to third. So 2 away. This Pete Mackanin, who began the year as the Reds' advanced scout, and he still has not been given the full-time job. He still has the tag of interim skipper, but the Reds have played far better under him than they did before he took over. And Pete Mackanin, if you go back a little ways, was the third base coach in Montreal when a young pitcher named Pedro Martinez was pitching for the Expos. So they've got a relationship. Here's Javier Valentin, Jose's little brother, and he takes a changeup outside. 1-0. First changeup from Pedro. Fastball for a strike, and that's the hardest pitch he's thrown so far at 88.
How about that? That'll work.
Well, again, you get the impression that Pedro is feeling his way here. 1-1 to Valentin, and there's a good fastball for a strike, and it's 1-2.
88 again.
Over the last couple of seasons, that's about where Pedro has topped out most of the time. 1-2, foul back, and he got that one to 89.
Well, you wonder. Oh, we'll do the Met defense. I wasn't paying attention to our producer there. I was so focused on Pedro here. Our Lexus defense: Delgado, Castillo, Reyes, Wright, Alou, Beltran, Green, and Loduca. That's going to be your lineup against right-hand pitching pretty much the rest of the year. You're wondering about Endy. I think Willie likes having Endy on the bench with Marlin. It gives him 2 great weapons off the bench from the left side of the plate.
1-2 to Valentin, hit in the air to right field. Right there waiting for it is Green. And Valentin retired. Pedro gets the fly ball on the changeup. So 2 runs home against Pedro in the first inning. It looked like he started to air it out as that first inning was ending. We go to the second inning. Cincinnati with a 2-0 lead. Pedro Martinez having completed his first inning of the season. It almost looked, Keith, as though he was just feeling his way, but by the end of the inning he kind of started feeling like himself.
Well, there's a lot of difference between an 80, 81, and 82 mile-an-hour fastball and an 88 and an 80 and an 89. So maybe he was a little reluctant and just kind of feeling his way through, and then said, hey, Let me open it up a bit. If he throws 88, 89, he's going to be effective.
And he threw a couple of nice changeups during that turn at bat as well to Valentine. Moises Alou leads off. Alou has had ridiculous numbers against Harang. And he drives one to deep left field. Forget it. That is long gone. His 5th home run in only 16 at bats against Harang. And it goes into the 2nd deck. And that cuts the Reds' lead to 2-1. Alou's 10th home run of the year. And against a pitcher who has been one of the best in the National League over the last few seasons, Alou has complete ownership.
Well, he kept the ball down the whole 1st inning, particularly to Beltran. And what did he do with first pitch to a guy that's a high ball hitter? Oh, belt high and down the pipe. And middle in, should say. And that's just not where you want to pitch Mr. Alou. That is if you want to stay in the big leagues.
So against Aaron Harang, who, you know, is one of the elite pitchers in the league, Alou is now 8 for 16 with 5 home runs. That's pretty good. Here's Sean Green, and he bloops one behind third, and Encarnacion is there in foul ground. That retires Sean, 1 away.
Well, Harang can give up the home run because he's a fastball, likes to throw his fastball. It's his 23rd. He's given up on the year. 15 against right-handers. I like his stuff. He's not too shabby neither.
Well, yesterday, Alou got ejected twice on the same play. Today, he hit one into the 2nd deck. Here's Loduca hitting 8th in the order. All hitting at 267. And he takes a fastball high. Loduca's been playing every day since coming back from the hamstring injury. Ramon Castro still is not close to being activated, so Mike DeFelice remains the backup. But Loduca's been going out there day after day at a time of year when he expects to. And frankly, he says he's as healthy now as he's been all season. From having sat on the sidelines for a couple of weeks to rest that hamstring. He says his thumb feels better as well.
Well, if you're a Met fan, this is when you want him healthy. Good slider right there from Harang.
That thumb still gives him trouble, though, from time to time, particularly on those check swings. It goes all the way back to last year. He had surgery on that thumb after last season ended. 1-2 to Loduca. Taken in the dirt. 2-2. Meanwhile, the Phillies and the Braves have begun a series in Atlanta. They're playing in the bottom of the 3rd with no score. So the Mets in a position where they have to gain in some respect, no matter who wins during that series. But certainly the Mets right now will be Braves fans, rooting for them to knock off the Phillies and help the Mets stretch their lead. 2-2, and Loduca fouls it away.
Gosh, that's like Met fans rooting for the Yankees.
Yeah. Pennant races make strange bedfellows.
Like politics.
Yes, exactly right.
Partner.
See how you feel about that November. Here's the 2-2 to Loduca. Pulled foul. It's still 2-2.
Oh boy. I like these. Oh, there you go.
How much
Nice bracelet.
How much did he spend for that paint job? Well, there's Pedro. I wonder how much Pedro's practiced his hitting over the last 11 months.
Well, you know he's been practicing bunting.
And a good turn at bat here for Loduca, laying off the breaking ball. 3-2. Pedro's never been known for his bat. Lifetime .094 hitter. Hit hard. Great diving grab by Encarnacion. Edwin Encarnacion takes a double away from Paul Lo Duca, who after the play was over just stared him down. He couldn't believe Encarnacion snagged this.
Well, this is a great play by Encarnacion, playing back of the 2 strikes. This is a great angle right here. Hooking line drive. Brooks Robinson couldn't have done it better. Nice play.
So here's Pedro with 2 out, and he'll take a strike. Well, he's got the 1 inning under his belt now, and you'd have to think his nerves have been calmed a bit, because there's got to be trepidation involved anytime you're coming back from major surgery, no matter who you are.
Well, he's had his rehab starts, so I'm sure that first start in rehab was the one that he was really, really nervous about.
And he takes a call, 3rd strike. 3rd strikeout for Aaron Harang. So Harang gets the next 3 hitters after Moises Alou takes him into the 2nd deck in left field. 10th home run of the year for Alou, and the Reds lead is 2-1. Well, they've been taking it slow and steady with Pedro Martinez under the watchful eye of Randy Neiman, the Mets rehab coordinator, Dr. David Altchuk, who performed the surgery, and Pedro's own rehab specialist. And so they've had a plan right from the start about how quickly they would push him, and it's gone pretty much according to plan, including a 2-week break that he took in the middle of July.
Well, they're gonna take their time. This club has been in first place all year, and even if this club was having a miserable year, they weren't going to rush Pedro. I think you have to look beyond this season. That he's 35, he can pitch 3 more years, and boy, if they can get him back to his old self, what a lift.
And he's got another year left on his contract next year. Scott Hatteberg hitting 7th in the order. Hatteberg's been hot of late. And he takes a strike, which is standard operating procedure for Hatteberg, who takes the 2nd highest percentage of pitches in the National League. Only Barry Bonds takes more. The changeup misses, 1-1.
Well, Hatteberg's one of those guys that doesn't hit lefties well. 211 against left-handers. He can hit the righties, though.
Another off-speed pitch. That's in for a strike. Good curveball by Pedro, 1-2.
He's been staying away from hitters. He got hurt over the middle and in. He's one of those guys that can, as he goes along in a game, can make the adjustments. Ooh, just missed a backdoor slider.
2-2 to Hatteberg.
I think his command right now looks pretty sharp, Gary.
Well, for a guy who hasn't pitched in a big league game in 11 months. Still trying to figure out his sequence with Lo Duca. Comes inside to Hatteberg, who yanks one foul.
Well, this is a pitch. Everything's been away. Now Pedro shook off Lo Duca and wants to come in. Look at the motion. There's that toe, getting that, banging that toe like he always does. That is his wont. He's going to go back in.
Does it look to you as though his arm angle is a little different than it was last year? I mean, last year it looked like he was throwing from a lot lower arm slot than he is right now.
I've been told by the people, ex-pitchers, to watch his point of release. He's not going to be able to get it up as high as he used to.
And he comes soft and strikes out Hatteberg. That's his first strikeout.
Well, it's not an easy guy to strike out in Hatteberg. It's only Hatteberg's 35th, and it's the backup slider. I mean, the backdoor slider, excuse me. So you worry, you wonder about the point of delivery. Pedro was always more over the top. Is he going to be able to get it up there in the future, or is he going to have to come more 3/4? And that's something I'm sure Ronnie is watching back at the studio.
Here's Encarnacion, hits the curveball in the air to left, and Alou comes over. And that's the second out.
Well, here's the point of release, and that is not over the top. That is, you know, that's basically 3/4, almost sidearm, but you see that was the backdoor sliders. His fingers were under the ball. He was throwing the backdoor slide ball.
That strikeout of Hatteberg was career strikeout number 2,999 for Pedro.
That's right. We're lost in all this. He's got 3,000 strikeouts on the horizon.
And a prime candidate here in Aaron Harang, 0-1. Pedro will become the 15th pitcher in the history of the game to reach 3,000 strikeouts with one more. Off the corner, 1-1. And Harang swings and misses at the fastball, and now Pedro ahead 1-2.
Well, this is going to be 3,000. There's Mr. Red.
1-2 pitch, struck him out. Career strikeout number 3,000 for Pedro Martinez, and they'll keep that ball. He was waiting for LaDuca to flip it to him. I'm not sure LaDuca knew. Pedro does. They'll put that one in the trophy case. Big smile all around. Career strikeout number 3,000 for Pedro Martinez. Congratulations. 15th in history.
Congratulations.
Third inning in Cincinnati. And a historic moment for Pedro Martinez. He strikes out Aaron Harang. That in and of itself is not historic. However, it is a major milestone for Pedro that hung in abeyance for a long time as he picks up his 3,000th career strikeout and receives congratulations from his teammates.
He's in the company of Tom Seaver.
Just has a grass stain on the souvenir that shouldn't be there.
I was Tom Seaver's 3,000th strikeout.
You were?
Yes, I was.
How'd that feel?
Threw me a hanging breaking ball. I swung and missed it.
Reyes thinks about a bunt, takes a strike.
I never hear the end of it from Tom.
I'll bet.
He was a Red then, of course. Right here in Cincinnati.
Reyes fly to left his first time up. And the curveball misses low. Well, Pedro over the first 2 innings getting it up to 88, 89. 29 pitches in the first 2 innings. More strikes than balls, particularly in that second inning. 1-2 to Reyes.
Well, 16 and 13. That's good management right there. So that second inning much better. 10 strikes, only 3 balls, but to me where the strikes were on the corners, knee high. When he came in twice. He got it in.
Reyes pops up another one. He's been doing that with regularity during this road trip, and Encarnacion has it 1 away. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Well, guys, you mentioned the relationship with Pete Mackanin and Pedro Martinez. Mackanin was a coach on that '97 Expos team where Pedro won the Cy Young. In fact, Pedro appreciated the efforts of the coaching staff so much he bought them all a Rolex after the year. But I was talking to Mackanin today, and I said, hey, you know, despite the fact he doesn't throw as hard as he did back then, does he still have that aura? Is he still intimidating on the mound? He said, you know what? He won't be the same Pedro we've seen over the years, but the bottom line is 85 is good enough for him because he still comes inside and he comes up and in, which keeps you honest. He says as long as you can control your stuff in the 80s, for him, he says it's plenty fine. He cited Trevor Hoffman as an example. He said, look at Hoffman. Here's a guy who's got a great changeup, doesn't throw hard to get you out. Everybody knows it, still gets you out. He said, you know what? I'm going to root for him, just not today. Guys?
Well, you know, we saw Pedro be successful last year, despite throwing at times 83 to 85. I mean, he was 5-1 to begin the season last year before all of his physical problems began to intervene. Castillo laid down a bunt single his first time up. But I think a lot of people have been surprised at the way Pedro, before the surgery, was able to transition from being a power pitcher to being really a finesse pitcher, which is what he became.
Which I think it lets you know that he's very intelligent, that he's able to make the adjustments as not only as the game goes along with that stuff, but as he's gotten older, recognizing what he doesn't have, what he still has, what he can use, what he can't.
Castillo lays off the fastball, and it's 3-2. And I think also, you go back to Pedro's most dominant days with the Expos and the Red Sox, and he always had 3 quality pitches. His changeup and his curveball were always big-time pitches to go with the 95.
Well, that's why you win 3 Cy Youngs.
3-2 to Castillo, and he lays off ball 4, and that's the first walk given up by Harang. Castillo has been aboard twice now, and the Mets get the tying run on base for David Wright. David singled through the hole into left his first time up. He now has 161 hits for the year, and I think we showed the graphic earlier. Only coming into the day, only Jeff Keppinger, of all people, had a higher batting average since the All-Star break in the National League than David Wright. Keppinger with the Reds, but not playing today with Pedro on the mound. Driven in the air to right field. Over toward the corner goes Griffey, looking up, and it's out of here. David Wright with an opposite field 2-run homer. His 26th home run of the year, and it gives the Mets the lead. David Wright showing off the opposite field power again. That's 11 of his 26 that have gone to right field, and it gives the Mets a 3-2 lead.
Well, his 26th home run, his 91st RBI, 95th run, and he was going that way all the way. Fastball right down the pipe, a mistake. And in this ballpark here, this bandbox, you cannot make mistakes.
It's only 325 down the right field line, and that ball just sailed.
There's no margin for error here for a pitcher.
Well, the Mets have been in a home run hitting mode over the last few days. Beltran grounds one to the right side. Phillips slides over but can't make the clean play, and Beltran beats it out. Now Phillips, who has great range and has had a terrific year at second base, unable to corral that one on the first grab, and it cost him.
Well, it took a bad hop, a little up hop on him there. He got in front, did everything right, and you could see the up hop there just tied him up.
We'll wait to see how they score it.
It's got to be an error. But you never know with these scorekeepers today. Base hit. How about that? Boy, you gotta love that book.
Beltran does.
Jeez.
Phillips does. Harang might not. They always say if you scored a hit, you please 2 out of 3 people. Here's Delgado, who struck out his first time up. The Mets got out-homered in Philadelphia 11-2. But in Atlanta, they hit 6 home runs in the 3 games. And they've hit 2 more today. Alou's solo shot in the second, and now Wright a 2-run blast in the third. And Pedro and the Mets have a 3-2 lead. Delgado grounds it down to first. Hatteberg with the throw to second. And the return with Harang covering in time for the 3-6-1 double play. Kind of slow developing, but it worked, and that ends the inning. But the Mets grab the lead on David Wright's 26th home run of the year. It ties him with Beltran for the club lead, 3-2 New York. We don't generally see all that many Met fans in Cincinnati, but there are plenty here today to witness Pedro Martinez's first start of the year. And Pedro's retired 5 in a row. Now takes on the top of the order in the third, and Josh Hamilton takes the curveball for ball 1. Hamilton cued one that settled in along the grass on the third base side for an infield hit leading off the first. And he takes another off-speed pitch. 2-0. Pedro has struck out 2. He's walked none, allowed 2 runs, 3 hits. A broken bat grinder down to Delgado. Flinches with a barrel of the bat sailing off to his right. Hamilton, with the rest of it in hand, is retired for the first out.
We see so much of that today. His bat's splintering down the middle. If I had a bat that broke like that, split down the middle like that, that means that is brutal wood. Like worms in that thing. A lot of the players today, they're so much stronger because they work out and lift, and they use the toothpicks for bats.
Now, Delgado going to the mound there, is that giving Pedro a breather? Is that trying to find out what kind of pitches he's going to throw to the next hitter?
I have no clue what he's doing there. Pedro, to me, seems to be in pretty good command.
Alex Gonzalez drilled a double to left that Alou misplayed his first time up. Alou made up for that by hitting a second deck home run off Harang. Popped up, shallow left field. Alou coming in. And Beltran calls him off. 2 out. And Pedro's starting to roll. He's retired 7 in a row. Well, Pedro Martinez starting to settle in. After this half inning, we're going to check in with Ron Darling, who's back in the studio in New York, to get his impressions of the way Pedro has fared over the first 3 innings.
Well, notice how Pedro, too, now has got, when he comes upstairs with that fastball, still got life on it.
Griffey takes low and inside.
More of a slider he's throwing than a curve. Not much of the pronounced down break that I've seen. More of a flat breaking ball today. We'll definitely look forward to Ronnie's expertise in the studio.
You see that ball strike ratio getting better and better. 2-0 to Griffey, and he hits it in the air to right field. Pretty deep, but playable for Green. Right near the wall. He's got it to end the inning. Ballpark just big enough to hold Ken Griffey Jr.'s fly ball, and so after a difficult start, Pedro is now retired 8 in a row. Time to go to the studio and check in with Ron Darling for his impressions.
All right, thank you very much, Gary Cohen with Ron Darling. I'm Matt Yaloff here. Let's go inning by inning here in Pedro's first major league start in nearly a year. First inning, what did you see and what did you like?
Well, a couple things. Exhilaration to see him out there pitching again, but a little disappointment just because he came into the game. Maybe it was a little fear, you know, of letting it loose, but really the first couple of pitches were at 82 miles an hour. Both fastballs. Those are things that you would like to see a little quicker than that.
Second inning, he seems to settle into a little bit of a groove.
Well, the great thing about Pedro Martinez has always been his control. He's always had the great stuff, but he knew where to pitch, how to throw it, and how to hit the corners, and that's what he showed in that second inning.
And then suddenly the 75 pitch count, which we established in the pregame show is probably a loose count. Through 3 innings here, he's looking like he could go 6 innings easily.
Well, I think you just take it inning by inning. I think it's great that he's gone through these 3 innings so far, but I think the most important thing is it's just him acquiring outs. 8 in a row now. That's something that Pedro does when he's, you know, when he's pitching at his best. But so far, so good, I think. He was hit hard in the first inning, not so hard the second and third.
That's the pitch count through 3. How about 3,000 strikeouts? He hit that mark. How special is that?
Well, it's so funny that it's such a special mark, but it's secondary considering just we're looking at his health and his first start in 11 months.
We're going to be here one more time with another analysis, instant analysis from Ron Darling at the end of the 5th inning. We'll have more on Pedro's day. For now, Ron Darling, Matt Yaloff, we go back to Gary Cohen and Keith Hernandez. They're at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. Guys.
All right, and Ronnie, I think you can still hear us. So we were talking about Pedro's arm angle. What's your impression about that?
Yeah, well, I think as he's gotten later in his career, Gary, his arm angle has dropped down more and more. So that's a concern, I think, because the breaking pitch becomes a lot flatter. And I think that's some of the things that you're seeing with that little cutter, that little slider that he's throwing. The lower your arm is, the flatter that pitch is going to be, the more dangerous it is for Pedro Martinez.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ron. And also, I think his command has been very good. And he's in the outside corner. And when he's come in, and he's got it in. He still has life on that fastball when he throws it 88, 89, where he can get that little life upstairs and get the pop-up.
Yeah, I think that, Keith, he's really shown that he has that kind of control still. So once he gets out of that, going out there and trying to throw after having 11 months of not pitching to big league hitters, I think it's going to get better and better.
All right, Ronnie, we'll check in with you and Matt a little later. Thanks. And Moises Alou pulls one over the bag and past Encarnacion and down the line. So Alou, who homered his first time up, has himself a double as he continues to succeed against Harang. He didn't hit that ball quite as hard as the first one, but it just got over the bag past Encarnacion.
Well, Harang, after the home run off the fastball, came with a breaking ball, got it up and out over the plate. And you're right, not as hard as LaDuca's ball, but a more perfectly situated down the line. Leadoff double for the Mets.
You know, we always have talked about Harang and the fact that you may use the word sneaky before. Our players will tell you that he hides the ball really well. Is there something about Alou and his approach that might allow him to see the ball better against a guy like that than your average hitter?
It's one of those things you can't put your finger on, Gary. It works for pitchers against hitters. Why did the Yankees trade for that pitcher from, what was it, from Boston or Washington that got Babe Ruth out, who was a mediocre pitcher, but he owned Babe Ruth? You just can't put your finger on it. Some guys you see well.
John Green pulls it. Diving stop by Hatteberg. He hits Harang and they get the out. A productive one as Alou moves to third, but Hatteberg robbing Sean Green of a base hit. A terrific play for the first out.
Well, Sean Green has hit right-handers good all year, and he's robbed here on a really nice play by Hatteberg. Good jump. You know, you want to drive those runs in, but you know it's not a great consolation. You've made an out, even though it's a productive out, as you say, Gare. But you know, when you're an RBI guy, you want to drive that run in.
So now the infield has to come in with Paul Lo Duca up. The Reds already down 3-2. Alou at third and one out. Lo Duca was robbed of a hit on a great diving play by Encarnacion in the second. So Harang has needed some serious defensive help early in this game. But the Mets have hit two balls where nobody can field them. Alou hit a second deck home run in the first. In the second, and Wright hit an opposite field two-run shot in the third.
Harang is not on the top of his game today.
There's a strike on the outside, 1-1. Well, the Mets hit him pretty well the first time they faced him this year. They got 3 runs and 7 hits over 6 innings, but he had been staked to a big lead on Brandon Phillips' grand slam off John Mayne, and he was able to win that game 8-4. Lo Duca hits one in the air to left field. That's deep enough to get the run home at least. Dunn going back to the wall, and he makes the catch. Alou tags and comes in to score. Sacrifice fly for Lo Duca, and it's 4-2 New York. Well, Lo Duca just barely missed getting that ball off the wall as Dunn put his back up against the scoreboard fence.
Well, the 34th RBI right there. See, the breaking ball is a little lazy today. I did not fool Paul at all. He was right on it, but he got it out enough and got it towards the end of the bat. And what a scary park to pitch in.
And the ball carries to all parts of the park as Pedro takes a strike. There's a gap in the stands on the third base side, just to the left of home plate, which creates a huge wind tunnel going out to right field. But the ball carries well to left as well. There's a strike, and it's 0-2. You see only Citizens Bank Park has yielded more home runs per game than this yard.
And Miller Park, of course, a lot of that's just the power lineup there. The Brewers lead the National League in home runs.
Yeah, Prince Fielder doesn't need a home run hitter's park to hit him a long way.
He's always swinging for the downs.
1-2 to Pedro, and he goes down swinging to end the inning. 4th strikeout for Harang, but the Mets add a run. Moises Alou continues to roll against Harang, and the Mets move him around and get him in. Pedro now with a 2-run lead. View of one of the bridges that takes you from Cincinnati into Kentucky across the river, right by Great American Ballpark, as we check out our Jeep around the majors. Yesterday, the Marlins came from 5 runs down, hit 5 home runs, 2 by Cody Ross, and then hung on to beat the Phillies. Prince Fielder hit his 40th, and the Brewers win over the Pirates. And Rick Ankiel, he has really sparked that Cardinal club since coming up in early August. The Cardinals just 2 games back in the National League Central. Pedro Martinez has retired 8 in a row since giving up 3 hits to the first 4 batters to face him. Brandon Phillips drove in a run with a first inning single, and he waves at the cutter by Martinez, 0-1. Phillips drove in his 81st run and then stole his 26th base. He has had a terrific year. He drives one to deep left field, but Alou is there to play it. And that's 9 in a row retired by Pedro Martinez. And it's interesting, just about everything has been hit in the air today. You know, Pedro, as you look at his top speed and his pitch count, which is right where you want it to be. Only 8 pitches thrown in that 3rd inning. Beautiful. But, you know, early in his career, you look at his fly ball ground ball ratio, and he used to be much more of a ground ball pitcher. Over the last few years, he's become much more of a fly ball pitcher. And I wonder if that's just the fact that he throws more breaking stuff, doesn't have the velocity that he had earlier in his career.
Well, it's hard to make an assessment on his first start back. I think as he goes along this month with his starts, I think a pattern will kind of will set itself up, will develop in front of our eyes. But I just like the way he's controlling the ball in his pitches. I mean, he's not making very fat pitches. Both sides of the plate.
Adam Dunn grounded out to Delgado his first at bat, and Pedro falls behind him 3-1. Pedro has not walked a batter today. He's struck out 2. But Dunn walks a lot. He takes a lot of pitches.
And he knows he has to be careful with Dunn. Dunn's got a lot of power.
And he walked him. So that snaps the string of 9 in a row retired by Pedro, his first walk of the day. By the way, in Atlanta, Brian McCann just doubled in 2 runs, and the Braves lead the Phillies 2-1 at the bottom of the 4th. That's Lance Cormier against Jamie Moyer in Atlanta.
Well, I felt that when we left Philadelphia, the big test for the Phillies would be a letdown. When you haven't got the pitching, you know, the other teams are going to. You just can't win games when your offense has got to do it every day. And of course, they went down to Florida and they lost 2 out of 3 with all the games they had a lead except the second game.
Here's Javier Valentin, and he drives one to left field. Alou right there waiting for it, and that's the second out. So Valentin hit it hard the other way. Back to first goes Dunn, 2 out. Well, as you know, Pedro began his career as a relief pitcher with the Dodgers, who didn't think that he was strong enough to be an every 5th day starting pitcher, so they traded him for Delino DeShields to Montreal. And when the Expos could no longer afford him, they traded him to the Red Sox and got Carl Pavano in that deal. And the Red Sox didn't make a big enough offer or a long enough one, and he bounced to the Mets as a free agent.
I'm upset.
About?
I did that all last night. I went on the computer and I had all of his numbers with all 4 teams, and these guys put it up and stole my thunder. They had it. I had per every team. The only thing good about it was at least my math was right.
Well, we all work together here, Keith.
I understand.
It's a team effort.
It's hard to screw up your math when you have a calculator, isn't it? It took me around 45 minutes to do that. I was diligent. Thanks, truck.
You are diligent. There's a strike. 2-1 to Hatteberg. Well, Pedro has the best winning percentage of any active pitcher, 206 wins and only 92 losses. He also has the best earned run average of any active pitcher at 2.81. Of course, he's got a long way to go on the active win list. Pedro's 35 now, and you know, who knows? Who knows how much longer he's going to pitch? Could be 2 years, could be 5 years, could be more. And the breaking ball in for a strike, 2-2.
Nice backdoor slider. I must say, he is incredibly sharp.
It's interesting because he was saying that that cutter that he throws is the least important of his pitches, but he's thrown it a lot today.
Well, he likes to use it against the lefties.
2-2 curveball is outside, 3-2. He's not had great command of that curve.
No. But you know what it looks like too? He's throwing effortlessly. It seems like his a lot of a big fluid motion. There's no wasted effort.
Dunn will run, And it's hit up the middle. A base hit for Hatteberg. Dunn will go first to third, and Beltran boots it. And Dunn being waved home. Beltran's throw goes to nobody in particular, backed up by Pedro. And the Met lead is sliced to 4-3. A flat-out boot by Beltran in center field. And you don't see that very often.
Well, you're right about that, and great hustle by Hatteberg, and Castillo and Reyes fell asleep. This is not a bad throw by Beltran. He knows he has no shot to throw it out at home. He knows he has a shot to get the guy at second. Hatteberg, no one's covering. So there's the misplay right there, as you said, Gary, so rare. And then Castillo and Reyes took a little nap there.
So it's a single for Hatteberg. The error moves Hatteberg to second and scores Dunn. Third error of the year for Beltran, and now the Mets will intentionally walk the number 8 hitter Encarnacion to get to Harang with first base open. So a run is in here in the bottom of the 4th. The Met lead is 4-3. And Beltran's going to be kicking himself over that one. I mean, he had no chance on Dunn at third base.
And that's a very rare error for Carlos. I mean, it's been so noticeable since his return. What a fine center fielder he is. Golden Glover last year. And he can just pick it. Even the best make errors.
So now Pedro, having seen a run come home here in the 4th, will face the pitcher Harang with 2 on and 2 out. The Braves wound up getting 3 runs in the bottom of the 4th, and they go to the 5th at Turner Field. Braves leading the Phillies 3-1. So the Mets might have a chance today to extend their lead if they can take care of business here. Harang, when he struck out in the 2nd inning, became a milestone for Pedro, his 3,000th career strikeout. 1 of 2 on the day for Martinez. Pedro now up to 55 pitches on the afternoon, and the word was that he'd be subject to a 75 pitch limit today. As Harang fouls one off, Delgado moving over near the crowd, but it'll go out of play. You know how hard and fast that limit's going to be. I don't think any of us really knows.
Like we said earlier, Gary, his motion's so fluid. There's no extra strain. It's not like he's like when Gossage pitched for the Yankees, Goose was like everything was into every pitch. Pedro, it's like he's soft tossing. It's beautiful to watch. Doc was that way. Steve Carlton.
And now he's ahead on Harang 0-2.
He's going to have to be careful with the splat slider, Gare. It stays on the same plane. There's the beautiful motion. You see, he's very sidearm. And when you have a breaking ball that stays flat, as the hitters catch on.
And Harang down swinging for the 2nd time. And that'll do it for the Reds in the 4th. So they get an unearned run on the Beltran error. But Pedro holds a 1-run lead. Top of the batting order coming up for the Mets in the 5th with Reyes to lead off. All eyes this afternoon have been on number 45, making his first start of the season. In the 1st inning, he gave up a cue shot to Josh Hamilton that started his day. That was not a particularly good omen. And then some hard hit balls. Alex Gonzalez doubled, and Brandon Phillips hit a pretty good pitch, a breaking ball to get a run in. But in the 2nd inning, he overmatched Aaron Harang for his 3,000th career strikeout. And then in the 3rd, getting a couple of fly balls. Pretty good change up to Ken Griffey Jr., although Griffey nearly got all of it, not quite enough. But Pedro was able to get it up to 91 with one of his pitches in the 4th inning when he dialed it up against Aaron Harang. And now he takes the mound for the 5th with 58 pitches under his belt and a 4-3 lead. 3rd time through the batting order, Josh Hamilton leads off and hits it hard and knocked down by Delgado, but no play. That one appeared to fool Delgado as he reached to his left for it.
That's going to be a base hit right there. That's a tough chance for Delgado, but he saved the double by knocking it down. This ball's ripped. This is a big test for Pedro here. Top of the order. Oh, that ball came up. The in-between hop is always the toughest play. You just got to kind of assume and anticipate where you think it's going to bounce. You never get a true he didn't get a true hobble, like it came up.
So that's the 5th hit off Pedro, and now the tying run on base with Alex Gonzalez at the plate. Gonzalez 1 for 2, doubled over Alou's head in the first inning. And Pedro throws outside 1-0. Pedro's gotten only 2 ground ball outs today. He'd love to get a ground ball here for his infield to work with. And he throws a strike with a changeup, 1-1. Pedro's next start will be on Sunday against Houston at Shea. We'll get an extra day of rest before that start. News today that El Duque will definitely miss a start because of an injury to his foot. So Mike Pelfrey will start on Friday night against the Astros.
And that's a good thing. Pelfrey just really, I mean, on a national stage, game of the week on Saturday, what a game he threw.
He earned it after going 0-7. 1-1 to Gonzalez, foul back. And Pedro gets ahead 1-2.
Rick Peterson there. What did Ronnie say? He's playing Keno?
Well, he keeps that chart every day of every pitch thrown by any one of his pitchers, but probably keeping it a little steadier in his hand today with Pedro on the mound.
That last breaking ball, Gary, was a hanger. He got away with it. We'll keep an eye on that, see if he's kind of tiring out a little bit.
Duca stays outside, but Pedro comes inside with a fastball, and he gets Gonzalez on the foul tip. Well, the location wasn't where he wanted it, but the effect was good. His 4th strikeout.
He wanted it up in a way, but it looked at that ball run in. It just completely tied up Gonzalez.
So 1 out and 1 on.
4th strikeout for Pedro. Now he's got to deal with the heart of the order here, the Bombers.
Griffey lined a sacrifice fly in the first inning to drive in a run, and then sent Green back to the fence in right field in the 3rd. And Griffey takes the changeup low.
Good eye by Griffey right there, and that was a bait changeup, and that was Pedro trying to get the Griffey to go after that and try to pull it and get into a double play.
Griffey now just 1 for 15 against Pedro, and he takes that changeup off the plate. 2-0. Griffey with 592 major league home runs. He was quoted the other day as saying he does not want to hit his 600th in Cincinnati.
Well, that's not very the bright thing to say, is it? I know he's been getting a lot of heat here for lack of hustle lately. That will not endear you to your home fans.
Well, Griffey, at least this year, has been healthy all season, but he's had to endure the snub, in his view, of being moved from center field to right field this year. He was double switched out of a game, and he took exception to that. There's a good pitch by Pedro with that cutter. It's 2-1. But that's the story of a fading star. You know, here's a guy who's been an elite player for a long time and has been used to being treated with kid gloves, and you know, he's at a point in his career where that's not always possible. 3-1 now to Griffey.
I like Junior and always have liked Junior, but he, in the peak of his career, he was fairly insufferable even to teammates, and he got knocked down a peg with all the injuries. And now he's got success back, and I guess a leopard doesn't change its spots.
3-1 now to Junior. And he walked him. Close pitch, but Junior got the call. 3rd walk given up by Pedro, and that moves the tying run into scoring position.
Well, he had to be very careful there, and it was all about him falling behind Griffey in that count.
Now Delgado comes in for another chat. as Pedro starts to push toward that quote-unquote pitch limit. He's got 68 under his belt now, with the limit supposedly set at 75.
Well, I don't think he's going to throw a first pitch fastball to Brandon Phillips. He likes that dead red. I think Delgado this time came over with a purpose, just to give him a little breather.
See the numbers on Pedro this afternoon. One of those walks intentional. Phillips single to left to drive in a run, flied out to left, 1 for 2. And he takes off the plate, 1-0. Phillips has grounded into 22 double plays this year, and Pedro would love to get one of those here. But again, he has not been generating ground balls. 4-3 New York, 5th inning. And Phillips takes a fastball in tight. Pedro having trouble throwing strikes right now. It's 2-0. And you've got big Adam Dunn standing on deck.
Well, they got a close watch on him. And there's someone up and throwing in that Met bullpen, a lefty out there, probably Schoenweiss. Can't quite tell. We're blocked here, our view from the press box.
I'm sure we'll get a shot of that in a moment. 2-0 to Phillips. And a good breaking ball, a cutter from Pedro. It's 2-1.
There's Mr. Schoenweiss, who's been throwing much better of late.
It's an outstanding call on your part, Mr. Hernandez.
I just figured it wouldn't be Feliciano. I guessed.
Now that he's closing games.
It could have been Willie. What's his name? How you pronounce it? Colasio?
Collazo. Pulled foul by Phillips, and it's 2-2. That's a good point, but then it would have come from a much lower angle because Willie is only about 5'8".
Well, very good here, Pedro. Fell behind 2-0. Was missing his pitches in the prior batter. Ken Griffey Jr. and now comes right back with 2 very good pitches.
Really taking his time now as he moves toward that pitch count. 2 on and 1 out. 2-2 to Phillips. Hit foul. And that 90-mile-an-hour fastball gives you an idea that Pedro may be reaching closing time.
But again, another good spot right there. You see Rick Peterson. Rick has got something on his foot, I bet you. There you go. In between pitches, you can always wander a little bit. He will get refocused.
2-2 to Phillips. Pulled foul.
Oh, good pitch right there. Great sinker. That was a changeup, and this is Phillips fought off a tough one. Watch the movement. That's the hard sinker down. He wanted to get it away, but missed over the middle.
After Pedro finishes this inning, we'll check in with Ronnie to see what he thinks about what he's seeing from Pedro. Pedro trying to negotiate the bottom of the 5th, taking on the heart of the batting order. 1st and 2nd and 1 out. And Phillips lifts one to right field, and Green is right there. Tagging at second, Hamilton. He'll move over to 3rd, but that's the 2nd out. So Pedro wins that battle, gets Phillips to fly out. He's now reached that magic 75 pitch plateau, but he's not going anywhere. He'll stay in to face Adam Dunn and finish the inning.
Well, this is one of the things that's impressed me with his outing. This ability to throw that fastball up in the strike zone and get the guys to fly out, which means he has a little life on it and a little giddy up, and that this might be rising, that little rising fastball that gets under the bat, over the bat. The players get under it, excuse me.
See that with El Duque.
So that's been impressive with me. That means, you know, if he's throwing 83, 82, he can't do that.
So now trying to put a bow on things here in the bottom of the 5th. Pedro will take on Adam Dunn, trying to preserve a 1-run lead with a tying run at 3rd. Dunn is 0 for 1 and a walk. And he pulls it down into the hole, but that's right where Castillo's playing. Side retired. Mets had the shift on. Castillo positioned perfectly, and Pedro Martinez gets congratulations. He's completed 5 innings, 76 pitches. His day is probably done, and he can walk off smiling with a 4-3 lead. Time to check in with the studio where Ron Darling is standing by. Ronnie?
All right, Gary, Matt Yoloff, Ron Darling here. More analysis on Pedro's day. Let's go from the 4th inning. We covered the first 3. How about the 4th inning for Pedro?
Well, I thought the 4th inning was great. I think he just improved inning after inning. He was able to reach back and throw that good fastball when he had to, and he did something that he always does, which I love, and that's the competition, competes against the hitters he's facing. I love his movement on the pitches. I think that was a big key, up in the strike zone especially.
All right, the 5th inning, he really bared down and got a huge second out as he was in trouble there, and that could have really changed the face of this game.
Well, I think facing guys like Griffey and Dunn, right now he does not match up that well against those guys with the arsenal he has right now. But, you know, he's got the heart of a lion, and a guy that's like that can get through that inning somehow. And you saw his reaction. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about arm angle. The guys in the booth commented on it. Do you see a major difference as you look at Martinez's numbers through 5 innings today?
Yeah, his arm angle has definitely dropped over the course of his career. It flattens out that little slider. But the great thing about it, it looks like he's added a little sinker to his repertoire. He's thrown it inside to the right-handed hitters, got a couple of outs with it. That movement is going to give him the ability to win games.
Surprise today? Anything really come to mind?
I think not really. I thought this was the kind of effort you were going to get today in the 5 innings. But the great thing, I think, without the play, a couple plays in the outfield, he might have only given up 1 run today.
Yeah, Lou with a misjudge there, and then Beltran with a rare boot in center field. All right, that's going to do it for us. We're going to be back here on Nissan Postgame Live with more on the Mets and Pedro Martinez. Back to Gary and Keith in Cincinnati with more on the Mets and the Reds as we continue on. Guys?
All right, thanks, Matt. Ronnie, We've watched Pedro now for a couple of years. Do you see any substantial difference between what you saw the last couple of years and what you saw here today?
Well, I think the thing I saw today is that he's just about the same. He's throwing about as hard as he did last year. He never really threw any harder than 87, 88, 89 miles an hour. He reached 91 today. And for you fans out there that are thinking, can he win with this kind of stuff? Well, I'll tell you right now, across the way, Aaron Harang has really hit about 88 or 89 all day long. So if he locates like he did throughout these first 5 innings, he absolutely can help the Mets down the stretch.
Well, this is the stuff that he won with 2 years ago when he won 15 games, and the stuff that he won with early last season when he started out 5-1. Thanks, Ronnie. And I think everybody has to be very encouraged with what they saw from Pedro here today. And judging from his reaction in the dugout, I think he's pretty encouraged too.
I completely agree. I am I'm elated at his performance. It's just, that's why he's a Hall of Fame pitcher. He's going to be a Hall of Fame pitcher. Going to be in the Hall of Fame. He just has a little more than the average bear. You know, just in every aspect of the game, and it's just fun to watch him piece everything together as he goes along. I loved his command today. I loved his movement, and the velocity was there when he needed it.
2-1 to Delgado, who's 0 for 2 today, and he takes a curveball for a strike. And then, of course, the next most important thing for Pedro will be how he feels tomorrow.
Exactly, and that's the one thing about rotator cuff surgery and coming back from it, is that it takes a long, you know, sometimes your recovery time takes a lot longer. Sometimes you need more than that 5th day.
And he'll get an extra day leading up to his next start on Sunday against Houston. And really, that's how they've handled his entire rehab process. He's gotten the extra day, or sometimes an extra 2 days between outings. 3-2 to Delgado. Line down the right field line, foul. This was the last out in the bottom of the 5th, and Pedro knew that put the ribbon on his outing.
Well, he got into a jam too, so what finer icing on the cake to get into a jam and be able to pull yourself out of it.
Delgado fouls it back, and then in the dugout afterward getting congratulations and self-congratulations.
Absolutely.
What would you call that little dance move there?
It's the funky chicken.
Well, he certainly was very happy, and that's great to see. 3-2 to Delgado, and he struck him out with a breaking ball. Harang has his 6th strikeout, second time he's gotten Delgado, who's now struck out 5 of his last 6 at bats. Well, I think that says it all right there. Well, here's Alou, who's had another big day against Aaron Harang. A second deck home run, a double down the left field line. He's now 9 for 17 with 5 homers against Alou, and he takes a strike against Harang, and he takes a strike.
And he scored 2 runs, obviously with the solo home run, but he scored when he got the double in the 4th.
And that run right now is the difference in this game. 4-3 New York. 1-1 to Alou. Scott Schoenweiss getting ready to pitch in the bottom of the 6th inning behind Pedro, and hoping to get Pedro the first few of 12 outs that he'll need out of the bullpen to get himself a win.
Oh, good curve. Took a lot off there.
Harang trying to find a weapon to get Alou out with.
Well, you notice it's not the fastball. 3 breaking balls and threw that real, almost an eephus pitch, 72 miles an hour. Oh, he shook off the fastball and another breaking ball.
1-2 to Alou, and the slider misses. 2-2. They're in the 6th inning now in Atlanta. It's still the Braves 3 and the Phillies 1. Mets after today will have 25 games to go in the regular season. Night game here tomorrow with Oliver Perez, then a day game Wednesday with John Maine on the mound. And then home for a 9-game homestand. The Astros come in for 3 over the weekend, and then it's the Braves and the Phillies. And it might be a chance for the Mets to once and for all put this division away.
I think we'll know by then. And also, if the Phillies do manage to stay close, the last 2 weeks of the season, the schedule's very much in favor of the Mets.
3-2 to Alou. The breaking ball hit to shallow right. Out goes Phillips. In comes Griffey, and it lands. And Alou has another hit off Harang. He heads for second and slides in safely with a pop fly double. Well, if you're Aaron Harang, what can you do except just throw up your hands in frustration?
Well,
he just can't get Alou out even when he pops it up.
It's a win for him. He got him out short, but this is what Griffey, they've been getting on Griffey a lot about, is he's got to call this ball off. It's his ball all the way. And that's not a lack of hustle right there, but it's just not taking charge. And the outfielder always has to take charge. And they've been on him. He hasn't been running out balls, evidently. He's let balls fall in front of him where he could have dove and made the play. And the fans around here are not happy with him.
Well, it ends up being the 3rd extra base hit of the day for Moises Alou, a homer and 2 doubles. Sean Green 0 for 2. He hit the ball hard his last time up, robbed by Hatterberg, who made a diving stop. Mets now have 8 hits off Harang. And the curveball in for a strike, 1-1. Now, you mentioned the schedule, Keith, and Elias did some figuring for us. And they find that for the remainder of the season, the Mets have the easiest schedule of any major league team when you take into account opponents' record. The Mets will be facing opponents with a cumulative .461 winning percentage over the rest of the year. There you see the upcoming schedule. All Mets home games on SNY, available in HD, presented by IO Digital Cable.
Well, after the Phillies, they've only got the Marlins in the Nationals.
And you've got losing teams here in Cincinnati and a losing team in Houston coming in over the weekend. The Mets have beat up on the National League Central this year, clearly the weakest division in baseball. Mets are 23-10 against the National League Central. Gonzalez made a run to the bag, but Alou back.
Let me look at the schedule here.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
I'm going to steal your book.
Check it out. By the way, if you're in the car, be sure to listen to the Mets on Sports Radio 66 WFAN with Howie and Tom. 1-2 to Green. And he misses with the fastball. 2-2. Mets 4, Reds 3. Mets trying to tack on here in the top of the 6th.
After this series, that's only one more road trip for the Metsies too, and is Washington for 3 and Florida for 4.
Inside, and it's 3-2. The Mets also have one game to make up against St. Louis at home the final week of the season, in between their last series between Washington and Florida. But there's no question the Mets have the advantage on their schedule at this point, and a 4-game lead. 3-2 to Green, reached for and foul. So Harang's pitch count starting to get up there. He's up to 95 pitches on the afternoon on a hot but not all that humid day. Temperatures around 90, but for Cincinnati the humidity is very low. What are we in? San Diego?
Not quite.
Not exactly. San Diego by the Ohio. 3-2 to Green. The curveball hit over the bag. That's a fair ball going down the line. It'll chase Alou home as Green heads to second. Back-to-back doubles by Alou and Green, and it's 5-3 New York.
Well, the 3rd run scored for Alou in this ball game, and Shawn Green drives in his 39th run of the year. And I've said it all year, I would love for him to go the other way, as Alou can just trot home. His power days are over, and he still can hit the ball to all fields and be productive. He gets into that habit, like all guys that used to hit home runs, they still want to pull. It's hard to break that habit. So look at Paul LaDuca, who steps up here, who's hit the ball hard twice today.
Drove in a run with a sac fly to the wall his last time up, and he hits one foul. Well, Shawn Green now has 27 doubles for the year. The RBI total is not what he'd like it to be, just 39, but got off to a hot start this year, broke his foot, and it was a real struggle for him for a couple of months, now just playing part-time. But he's been able to hang in and keep a good attitude, and that's half the battle. LaDuca pops one foul. Yeah, it's got to be very difficult. And you know, Luis Gonzalez is going through this in LA right now. A veteran player, used to playing every day his entire career, and now all of a sudden he's not an everyday player anymore.
It's a hard adjustment to make, and you know, you always want your veteran players to be your bench. You don't ever want to have a young kid there who's spoiling to get into a ball game, have to sit there and cool his jets and come in and pinch hit late in the ball game. It's a tough job.
Up the middle to his left, snagging it Gonzalez. Beautiful play, and he throws out LaDuca, who's got to be tearing his hair out at this point. What a rough day for Paul. A line drive that Encarnacion made a diving stop on. A sacrifice fly to the fence. And now a beautiful sit spin by Gonzalez to make this play.
Well, we all know the glove of Alex Gonzalez. He's a terrific shortstop, and that's just a fine play right there.
So that's the second out. Green moves over to third. Paulie doesn't hide his emotions real well, does he?
No, he doesn't. Yes, you're right. There's nothing. He's a little grumpy.
Ruben Gotay bats for Pedro Martinez, and he takes the curveball for a strike. So Pedro done after 5 innings. He allowed 3 runs, 2 of them earned on 5 hits. He walked 3, one of those intentional, struck out 4, running his career strikeout total to 3,002. And Gotay rips a base hit into right field, and that'll bring home Green and make it 6-3 New York. Ruben Gotay comes through as a pinch hitter with a 2-out RBI single, and the Mets have a 3-run lead.
Well, Ruben just continues to do a good job off the bench for the Mets. Hits a breaking ball right there. Remember, Willie pinched hit with Shawn Green in the, was it Philadelphia, Gary? That important series up in Philly with Shawn instead of Gotay, which a move I did not second guess, going to a veteran in that clutch situation. but he's done a great job off the bench.
Well, Pete Mackanin will pull Aaron Harang. The Mets have beat up on the 14-game winner. This call to the bullpen is brought to you by Verizon. Switch to Verizon Fios TV, internet, phone. It's the most advanced fiber optic network straight to your home. Mets with a 6-3 lead as they bat in the 6th. To get your SNY on the web, make your homepage SNY.TV, the online home of all things New York sports. Pregame, postgame, every game. If you want your SNY online, bookmark SNY.TV. Gary Majeski, the former Washington National, now on the mound for the Reds.
Well, he's had nothing but injuries since the trade. This trade last year was made with the Nationals. The Reds did it with the purpose of strengthening their bullpen, and Majeski has been injured.
Reds gave up 2 starting players in that deal, Austin Kearns and Felipe Lopez, a deal that they have protested, saying that Majeski was damaged goods when they got him. 1-1 to Reyes, who's gone 0 for 3 today. Well, coming up in just a few minutes, Kevin Burkhardt will be with Pedro Martinez to talk about Pedro's return to action today. A successful one. Pedro going 5 innings and leaving with the lead. Reyes hits one to center field, and Hamilton is there. And that retires the side, but the Mets tack on 2 runs. Alou and Green with back-to-back doubles go tie an RBI single, and the Mets have a 3-run lead as we go to the bottom of the 6th. Hey, it's time to ask the booth. Eric from Old Brookville wants to know, Keith, who was the toughest pitcher to hit against in your playing days, and who had the most complicated delivery? I guess that means the toughest to pick up.
Well, Eric, I'd have to say there's lots of guys that were tough to hit, but you know, Tom Seaver has to be there. I've always say Don Sutton. Don Sutton had 6 pitches, great curveball, was very difficult. John Candelaria, the list goes on. Rudy May. The most difficult delivery would have to go head and shoulders. You got Charlie Lee Brandt from the left side. It was herky-jerky. And Doyle Alexander. He had the funkiest motion with a great curveball. It was just so hard to pick him up. And I was glad when the Braves traded him out of the league. It's like, bye, Doyle. Don't come back. Stay over in the American League.
Traded him for John Smoltz. Marcus McBeth, the new Cincinnati pitcher, and Moises Alou takes ball 1. Alou already with a homer and 2 doubles today. He scored 3 runs. Marcus McBeth, who, like the guy who preceded him, John Kutlangus, went to the University of South Carolina. And the breaking ball in for a strike, 1-1. Second inning, Mets were down 2-0 when Alou came up.
And that was the first pitch he saw off of Harang. That was a first pitch fastball hitting. I guess you can do that when you're coming to the game hitting 4 home runs and 7 for 15 against Harang.
Amazing. Well, he's now 10 for 18. There go the runners. Alou takes outside, and it's a double steal for Beltran and Delgado. 20th stolen base of the year for Beltran and the 4th for Delgado. And the Mets now have 178 stolen bases for the year.
20th for Delgado. Just not paying attention, and teams that are playing it out when they fall behind late in the game, they tend to fall asleep at the switch.
So again, the infield has to come in for the Reds with 2nd and 3rd and 1 out. And Alou with an RBI opportunity. By the way, with his 3 for 3 today, Alou now has a 10-game hitting streak going. He had an 11-game streak stopped, missed 1 game where he didn't get a hit. Now 10 more games. So he's been incredibly consistent since coming back from the disabled list. And he takes a slider for a strike, and it's 2-2.
Alou didn't like that call, thought it was low, and it looks like Atlanta tacked on another run, Gare. Four to 1.
It is 4-1. Going to the bottom of the 7th now in Atlanta. Marcus McBeth, nickname?
Tell me.
Oh, Shakespeare.
Of course. As long as it wasn't Lady.
Or McDuff. Could have been Eye of Newt.
Oh. King Duncan.
Well, we mentioned the Mets now with 178 stolen bases, and that's now the most in this decade. So the Mets have certainly put a lot of pressure on other teams, led by Reyes, but you know, with Wright and Beltran, even Sean Green has 9 steals. 3-2 to Alou. Breaking ball hit in the air along the left field line and foul, and that goes into the seats, and they'll do it again.
Just a little bit too quick on that swing. That was a hang-in breaking ball for him to drive. But Alou stands on top of that plate. He's looking for something to pull. Very seldom does he go the opposite field. Only when you need an RBI base hit, when it's crunch time, does he go up the middle more. But he's always up there looking for something to pull right on top of the dish.
Go up the middle now, he'll get 2 RBIs with that infield in. And he takes ball 4, and now the bases are loaded for Sean Green. So they brought in the right-hander to face Alou, the double steal, and now a walk. Alou's on base for the 4th time. And now Macbeth will exit, and they'll bring in another left-hander. This is what happens when you expand the rosters and give managers unlimited relief pitching options. You get managing like this, batter by batter by batter.
Over-managing.
Macbeth, exunt. We'll get another pitching change for the Reds. 7-3 Mets as they bat in the 7th. Take mass transit to Shea Friday evening for the start of a weekend series with the Houston Astros. Then the NL East action heats up with the Braves on Monday, September 10th through Wednesday, September 12th, followed by the Phillies at Shea. Go to Mets.com now for your print-at-home tickets. Well, on to make his 1,170th appearance. Second most all time is the former Met Mike Stanton.
And hasn't been a good year for Mike. And look at the lefty righty batting averages off of him. The ERA up in the 6s. That usually got you a ticket back to Indianapolis, which is their AAA affiliate.
Well, Sean Green will bat against Stanton with the bases loaded and 1 out. The Mets with a chance to blow the doors off this game, leading 7-3 in the 7th. Green had an RBI double in the last inning. 1 for 3 on the day. Mets have 13 hits in the game. Beltran at third, Delgado at second, Alou at first, 1 out. And Green lays off the slider, and it's 1-0.
Well, as a hitter, and I know I've said it a million times, I feel like a broken record or a scratched disc, whatever one you prefer. Just,
I believe that's a faulty MP3.
Okay, a faulty MP3. They miss with a breaking ball with the bases loaded first pitch, and you're 1-0. Boy, you are in the catbird seat.
And Green takes a strike, 1-1. Pedro Feliciano staying ready in the Mets bullpen after Scott Schoenweiss worked the bottom of the 6th. It feels like ages ago, as the Reds have made a couple of pitching changes here in the top of the 7th.
Doesn't that shot in the bullpen look like a security camera at 7-Eleven or something?
Get your hand out of the till. Grounded slowly. Tough play for Phillips. He'll have to go to first in time to get Green as a run comes home to make it 8-3. Green with his 2nd run batted in of the day as Beltran scores. Mets have 2 here in the 7th after tacking on 2 in the 6th.
Well, he got fortunate here. Didn't hit it hard enough to be a double play. And when you're having a tough year like Stanton, you get the ground ball, and it's a high chopper. So the rally is still alive. I'm sure they'll walk LaDuca, even though it's a 5-run ball game.
Well, you got the pitcher spot up next,
and they're going to pitch to him.
Mets have pinch hitters in the dugout, probably Cohen or Millage if they were to walk LaDuca. And Cohen has come out on deck, so they'll pitch to LaDuca, who's had a very rough 0 for 2 today. Hit a searing line drive, and Encarnacion robbed him of a double. Hit one to the left field fence that was caught. That went as a sac fly. And then Alex Gonzalez hit one up the middle and did a sit spin and threw him out as Cohen comes out on deck.
And Mr. Green gets into the 40s now with RBIs for the year.
1-1 to LaDuca.
I'm sure he's happy about that.
Be happier if it were 90.
Well, he hasn't played enough to get 90. He had 90 RBIs with the playing time he's had. That would be one heck of a year. I'm sure he would be more happy with 70 with the amount of time that he's played this year. And that's what I think what the Mets were expecting from him or hoping from him.
15 and 70, somewhere in there. 2-1 to LaDuca, who's never had a hit against Stanton. LaDuca's 0 for 9 against Mike Stanton. You wouldn't necessarily figure that.
No. Well,
two in scoring position for LaDuca as the Mets have started to pull away in this game. And he's fooled. 2-2.
and let's not forget Mike Stanton in his day, and he's had a long career, was one of the top left-handers relievers in baseball and a very key part of that Yankee championship teams in the 90s.
They had him and Nelson setting up Rivera.
He threw hard, and you know, his career is in its twilight. Oh, I would say sunset.
2-2. LaDuca fouls it off. Well, you mentioned Stanton is second on the all-time appearance list, trailing only Jesse Orosco. He's now 82 appearances behind Jesse's all-time record of 1,252, and you wonder whether he'll be able to get there or not.
Even Jesse had to hang him up eventually, huh?
Yeah, but he was, what, 50? On the outside corner, strike 3 call. Got him looking at the curveball, and LaDuca is out to end the inning. But the Mets tack on a couple in the 7th. RBIs for Beltran and Green. And the Mets now with a 5-run lead at the 7th inning stretch. In 2007, Hyundai, the Mets, and SNY are teaming up to strike out cancer. For every K the Mets pitching staff registers, Hyundai, the Mets, and SNY will make a donation to the Hope and Heroes Children's Cancer Fund. If you'd like to help, please go to www.hopeandheroes.org. Well, Pedro Martinez went 5 innings in his return to action today after 11 months away. Rotator cuff surgery. Struck out 4, gave up 3 runs, 2 of them earned on 5 hits, and all in all a very successful return to action.
And one of those 4 strikeouts was his career 3,000. That puts him in rarefied air with the pitching greats of all time.
For the most part, he was around 88 miles an hour. He did throw 1 pitch at 91. Had pretty good command of his changeup and his cutter. Didn't throw a whole lot of curveballs, but it was a huge lift for Pedro and for the Mets, who have been scoring early and often. They've rung up 8 runs and 13 hits today. And now Norris Hopper will bat for Josh Hamilton with the left-hander Pedro Feliciano in the game. Hopper has had himself a terrific second half, takes a strike. And there's Pedro coming off his save performance Saturday afternoon when he didn't realize that he had saved the game. Comebacker over Feliciano, run down by Reyes, and he threw him out. Tremendous play by Reyes, going far to his left to get the speedy Hopper one away.
Well, it just bounces over Feliciano's head, and Reyes almost across the bag on the catch, but certainly came across the bag on the throw. Look at that beautiful play.
And he knew he had a fast guy running and had no time to waste. So 1 out and nobody on. And here's Alex Gonzalez. Gonzalez fouls it back. Alex Gonzalez 1 for 3 on the day. Doubled over Alou's head in left field in the 1st inning. Alou has now come out of the game. Andy Chavez has come in to play left in a double switch. Chavez hitting 9th and Feliciano hitting 6th in the order. And Gonzalez takes it wide, 1-1. There's Endy in left field, and this has become standard operating procedure now for Willie. Since getting Endy back, when he doesn't start, he comes in late for defense.
And he's always able to flip-flop the lineup and get Indian at bat, which is always more important to keep him sharp. There's Willie.
Lots of reasons to smile for Willie today. Chance for a 4th straight win after losing those 4 games in Philly. Getting Pedro Martinez back in the fold and healthy. And maybe a chance to stretch the lead today as well, as Gonzalez lines one just over Castillo into right center. Green gets over to cut it off, and Gonzalez holds with a single, his 2nd hit of the game.
It's an interesting quote in the paper when after the sweep of Atlanta, Willie said that he was proud of his team after that 4-game sweep, and there's the base hit right there. A nice jump. Leap, I should say. Not good enough. But when Willie came out on the field after that game and just more or less told everybody how proud he was of him. Proud. And
here's Ken Griffey Jr. and he hits one to center field, not deep, and there's Beltran to make the grab for the 2nd out. So Griffey's first pitch swinging, flies out to center, and Feliciano's got a couple of outs.
Now getting back to Willie, came out in the mound after the game, and all the players said proud. And how can you not be proud of that team? I mean, that was such a. They stood up after that 4-game sweep, and the sky was falling. The Sharks were circling, and boy, they answered the bell, and just the weight of the world was off there. I mean, those are the defining moments in this season. And when this season's over, if the Mets win it, which I think they will, we'll look back, obviously, Gary, on that 3-game sweep in Atlanta.
Well, no question about it. And I think even more so, you know, and we talked about it after El Duque left the game on Thursday afternoon in Philadelphia. The Mets were behind 5-0 and in danger of getting swept, which they wound up getting. But the way they approached the rest of that game in Philadelphia, I really think said a lot about this team's understanding. And it's really been that way all year, hasn't it? That whenever they have been threatened, whenever they've really needed to win, they've really kicked it up a notch.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing in the long run, to be able to turn it on and off like that, because it's hard to do it when you get to the postseason. As Phillips bounces one off his leg and slow getting up.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't think they're as good a ball club as they were last year. I think the bullpen was stronger last year, much more solid. They hit better last year. You had much better years from Delgado and Beltran. So in that regard, I don't think that you can put a label that they underperformed or just played to the level of the competition, won when they had to. I just think it was a stop and go season for them all the way down the line.
Phillips back in with an 0-2 count, and he lines one for a base hit to left center. Over goes Chavez, and he cuts it off. Over to third goes Gonzalez, and Phillips held to a single, his 2nd hit of the day, and the Reds have first and third with 2 out.
Pretty good hitting right there from Phillips, and Feliciano trying to get that backdoor slider, which he's so adept at, but he got too much of the plate there. And that's an automatic in the gap. You don't even hesitate. You go first to third. The play is in front of you. You don't need your third base coach.
So now first and third and 2 out, and Adam Dunn stepping in. Dunn is 0 for 2 and a walk. 36 home runs on the year, and he takes the slider outside. Well, the Mets have been in first place since the middle of May. The lead has shrunk to as little as a game and a half at times. It ballooned for a brief moment to 7 games. Fouled off LaDuca, and that knocks him over. Meanwhile, Kevin Burkhardt is standing by with Pedro Martinez.
Pedro, all the hard work, the 11 months, those long days rehabbing, then you get out here and have a successful start. What are the emotions you're feeling today?
Well, I'm just really thankful. First of all, to God for allowing me to get back, and my family, and Chris Correnti, Randy Neiman, everyone that has a little to see with my rehab and how everything was going. all those trainers in the minor leagues, those kids that were out there for me. I'm just really thankful to be able to actually come back today, add a little help to the team, and at the same time, get some personal records out of the way as well.
How about that personal record? 3,000 strikeout. Congratulations. Do you have to get on Paul LaDuca now? Because it seemed like he forgot. He rolled that ball back.
Well, I've been away so long. It seems like everything, like it happens in baseball. Once you go away, everything is forgotten pretty much. But I'm not going to get on him for that. I've been away too long, and I'm pretty sure his focus wasn't to actually be aware of the 3,000 strikeouts. It was more of my health and how I did things and calling a good game for me.
Your health, how do you feel physically after that outing?
Very good, actually. I felt pretty fresh when I came out, and I reached my limit pretty much, and I knew I was out, but I was very glad that I got my part of the job done for the first outing, at least.
Are you tentative, even though you pitched rehab starts, are you tentative early on just to see, hey, you throw a curveball, okay, my arm feels okay? Is there kind of like that, even though you've had rehab starts, you want to go out there and just kind of feel it first to make sure your arm's okay?
First, you want to get your feet wet in the big leagues and see what's going to develop. And I thought I was going to have like butterflies and stuff like that. But I guess I'm too old. And, I was comfortable enough to go out there and not feel any pressure or feel like I need to overdo anything. But at the same time, you just want to make sure that you come out of this one, especially the first one, normal and feeling good to actually go to the second one, because that's the one that's going to look more like a real outing than this one.
Pitch-wise, what were you happy with? What maybe needs a little bit more fine-tuning for the next start?
I was very pleased with the way I used everything. I wasn't as good at throwing breaking balls because it was also a little drier than normal. And I come from Florida, and I'm used to the moist and stuff like that. It was equally as that, but it wasn't as humid as it was in Florida. So I had a little hard time gripping the breaking ball. But the other pitches were okay for now. Anything different you have to do after the start that maybe you're not used to that you didn't have to do previously, just as far as, icing or to get a little congratulations from David Wright? Anything, that you have to do right after your start to help your arm recover for the next time that's different after the surgery? Well, I'm not icing my shoulder yet until I hit like 100 pitches or something like that. I haven't the whole rehab, and I have some little things that I have to do, like, little aerobics and stuff that we normally do. Normally we do cuffs and stuff like that, depending on how hard I work, on how they believe I should be doing that day. You feel how happy your teammates are to have you back, can't you? Believe me, the last 3 days I got a hump of it, and I can tell that they appreciate me, and I appreciate them so much. I thought that by me coming back was going to be something special, but not that special, and they really made me feel comfortable once I got here. On the plane, the happiness, the loudness that we had in the plane yesterday was different. The atmosphere totally changed, and I'm glad I can be part of it. Pedro, it was great to see you out there again, and thanks so much for doing this. Thank you so much. All right, guys, let's go back up to you.
All right, thanks you, Kevin, and thank you very much to Pedro for taking the time with us during the ball game. And I'll tell you what, it just changes the whole notion of what this team is when Pedro Martinez is around. And it doesn't go unnoticed that if the Mets win this game today, it'll not only be Pedro's first win, that they'll be 4-0 since he got back into that clubhouse on Friday.
Absolutely, and we know how glum that clubhouse has been for quite a while, and it needed a personality in there, someone with a little pizzazz, and he certainly provided it, and I'm not surprised that they are 4-0.
Check swing grounder by Chavez, Encarnacion with the throw, and he got him.
You know what?
First down in the 8th.
That was a great interview, by the way, by Kevin. He asked all the right questions. But what a class guy Pedro is, to thank everybody that helped him, but even thank the minor leaguers that were there to hit off me and field for me and all. I mean, that's just, he's just a class guy, and I've seen enough and heard enough coming out of him that is just who he is. And boy, what a welcome back that is to have him. What a big shot in the arm for the Mets.
Well, he treats people the right way. There's no question about that. And you know, what goes around comes around. I mean, there's a reason why everybody feels the way they do about him beyond just his performance on the field.
Well, there's an old saying, right? And everybody says, oh, they're cliche, they're passe. Well, there's a reason why they have old sayings. You know, you meet the same people on the way up as you do on the way down. And that always was something my father said to me and to keep in mind. And Pedro certainly is a class individual.
Reyes has had a rough day. He's gone 0 for 4. He's hit 4 balls in the air. And Stanton throws a breaking ball in for a strike, 1 and 2. Meanwhile, the Braves are leading the Phillies 5-1 as they play the bottom of the 8th in Atlanta. So if the Mets can hold on to this 8-3 lead and that score holds up in Atlanta, the Mets would have a 5-game lead at the end of the day. And with Pedro's return and with the Mets getting closer to pushing themselves into the postseason, going to have to start asking some questions about the composition of the Mets rotation if and when they get to the postseason. There are no easy answers there.
How about if Pedro just every start keeps getting better? Is he going to be your #1 guy in game 1?
Well, I mean, you look at the years that everybody's had. Glavine, El Duque, Maine, Perez, and if you have Pedro, you know, I'm not going to put Pelfrey into that mix off one good start, but the other 5 guys, you're not going to use 5 starters in the postseason. If you have a healthy Pedro Martinez, how could you not use him in the postseason? And if you do, who gets bumped? I mean, that may be getting ahead of ourselves, but it's going to be a question that eventually is going to have to be asked.
Well, I seem to recall
toward the hole, backhanded by Gonzalez, but no chance to get Reyes, who beats it out for an infield hit.
Well, Reyes avoids the collar, gets his first hit of the day, and that's always a sweet thing right there. If I hit this ball, guess what? I'm 0 for 5.
Not Reyes.
He smelled it.
He's got 170 hits now, and 73 of them have come with 2 strikes. That's more than any other hitter in the National League. More 2-strike hits than anybody.
You know, getting back to your point, who gets bumped with a healthy Pedro Martinez and not using 5 starters in a postseason? I seem to recall a pretty good pitcher for the '86 Mets having to go in the bullpen and Sid Hernandez.
No question. And he played a prime role in getting you guys the World Series win. But the question is, who is best able among those 5 guys, assuming they're all healthy, of being Sid Hernandez? Is it Perez? Is it Maine? Is it Duque? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I think Duque can probably make the adjustment. El Duque make the adjustment more than Maine or Perez. But do you want to not start El Duque?
Right. Who's been arguably your most effective starter and has the most postseason experience and success of all of them.
I think then you're, well, I don't want to. Gosh.
Tough call. Castillo lifts one to center field. Norris Hopper playing out there. Now he misjudged the ball and it's over his head. Reyes streaking for third. He'll be waved home all the way. No relay throw. RBI double for Castillo and a ball misplayed by Norris Hopper, and it's 9-3 New York.
Well, you saw right there what this ballpark is all about. That was already, I put my head down. I was putting F8 on my scorecard. That's just a fly ball. And so did Hopper, thought the same thing. And look how much it carried.
That is that jet stream we were talking about earlier. Well, there's a different jet stream. Reyes scoring his 103rd run of the year. I don't think we've had a shot of it today. There is a gap in the stands between home plate and third base, and the wind just shoots through there and blows that ball out to, there it is, blows that ball out to center and right center, and that ball that Castillo hit got caught in that jet stream. Here's David Wright, who has 3 hits, including a 2-run homer today. The Mets now have 15 hits in the game and a 9-3 lead.
Well, Hopper made the 2 stops in. It's actually to his left, and it was too late.
Well, you just don't expect Castillo to hit the ball that far, even as a right-hand batter, which is his more powerful side. So Castillo has 3 hits today. Alou has 3 hits. Wright has 3 hits. as the Mets have chalked up a big offensive day and an outstanding offensive park. One and one to Wright. Well, this ballpark has produced the third most runs of any park in the National League, behind Philadelphia and Colorado.
God, look at the stinky. Oh, excuse me, Yankees.
You didn't just say that, did you? 1 and 2 to Wright.
Just kidding. No offense.
You've been going on those message boards again.
Just kidding, you Yankee fans.
Yankees struggling today. Seattle leading them 7-1 in the ninth as the Mariners try and snap a 9-game losing streak and get within a game of the Yankees in that wild card race. 1 and 2 to Wright. And it's fouled off. Meanwhile, they've gone to the ninth in Atlanta. The Braves with a 5-1 lead over the Phillies. So this could be a very productive day for the Mets.
Make things tough for everybody here. They get the 5-game lead. 24 to play after this.
It's amazing how quickly things can change from a 7-game lead to a 2-game lead, back perhaps to a 5-game lead, all in the space of 8 days. Pennant races are wacky things sometimes. And Wright takes it outside 2-2.
Well, you got to say one thing. The Mets, I can't say they were on the floor or on the. They picked themselves up and answered the bell.
I thought the bell was opening day.
Well,
it's like the bell lap.
It's like in boxing.
Oh, I see. Like for the 15th round.
Got off the mat and answered the bell.
I see. You can be saved by the bell.
Yes. But they saved themselves.
Grounded foul. I was thinking on in track and field, you have the bell lap, right?
Yes.
You go into the final lap. It's like the white flag.
Yes.
In auto racing, right? Last lap.
Yes.
Just trying to find some metaphoric analogy that will work here.
Too bad we didn't have Kurt Vonnegut here. I'm sure he'd bring up one.
Yeah, that would be a problem, though.
Why? Oh, I understand.
He passed away.
I understand.
He was a wonderful writer.
He was my neighbor in New York.
3 and 2 to Wright.
I used to see Kurt all the time there in the day. That's about how it is in the race, isn't it?
Those are your standings. They do a nice job keeping up to date. 3-2 to Wright. Line drive caught by Encarnacion. And that's the second out. So Wright lines out to Encarnacion, who's had himself a busy day.
And Wright is 3 for 5 on the day, and I know he's not happy right there. There's an RBI right there, and 4 for 5. And that's what it takes. You got to be hungry. You got to be greedy. You got 3 hits. You want 4.
Sound like Pete Rose.
Yep. Even in a game like this, and this late.
Well, here's Beltran, who's got a couple of hits today. He's driven in a run. He's stolen a base. He's scored a run. And he loops one into shallow center. In comes Hopper to make the catch. Castillo forgot how many out there were. He was going back to second base. Well, it is late in the game, but the Mets tack on a run and they lead it 9-3 as we go to the bottom of the 8th. Here are your tomorrow's starters. Tomorrow night on SNY, 6:30. Don't miss all the action as SNY and the Mets drive to the pennant, brought to you by your local tri-state Mazda dealers. Oliver Perez goes after his 13th win tomorrow night against Matt Belisle, who pitched a good game but lost to Tom Glavine of the Mets when they were at Shea in July. Guillermo Mota making sure that Reyes is okay after getting tripped over by Chavez in the bottom of the 8th. Carlos Delgado will lead things off for the Mets in the 9th against David Weathers, the former Met. The 6th pitcher of the afternoon for the Reds, and he gets ahead of Delgado 0-1.
And David Weathers having himself a nice season here for the lowly Reds. You see the saves there, 29. He's only blown 5 saves.
Nice hits to innings pitched ratio, holding right-hand hitters to a 191 average. So Weathers, who has fulfilled every role that a pitcher can. He's been a starter, he's been a setup man, and here in Cincinnati later in his career closing games, and really has been the bright spot in an otherwise dreadful Reds bullpen.
Oh, where's that pitch? Well, if the Reds had their druthers, they'd rather have a year that Weathers is having from one of their youngsters. Weathers, of course, has been around a while. More than a while.
Well, they've been trying to figure out who a young closer might be. You know, for a while they thought Todd Coffey was going to be the guy. In fact, they just announced Coffey is going to be called up tomorrow, as the Reds have called up a bunch of players to join them for tomorrow's game. But none of those guys has been able to have enough consistency to be handed the role, so they're using Weathers as a stopgap this year, and he's done a very nice job. 2-2 to Delgado, and he drives one to deep right center field. Forget it. That is long gone. Carlos Delgado continues his excellent road trip with a long home run to the back of the bleachers in right center. His 22nd home run of the year, and it's 10-3 New York.
Well, it's the one place you can't pitch him. 22nd home run, a 80th RBI, 65th run for Mr. Delgado. That's where he loves it. Down and over the middle, outer half, middle out. You will pay a big price if you try to pitch him there.
And that went a long, long way.
That's a bomb.
So Delgado now with 80 runs batted in. Now Marlon Anderson, batting for the pitcher, takes a strike. Anderson, who's just been incredible of late, coming off the bench. It's unusual to see Marlon in a lopsided game. Usually he's up there trying to put the game away or with the game on the line.
Well, he wants to keep him sharp.
Last time we saw him was Friday night in Atlanta when he unloaded a 3-run double to put that game away. But it's been almost impossible to get Marlon out of late. And the Met fans making noise. Marlon lifts one foul.
The Met fans take no prisoners. They come here and they just they'll pour salt in the wound, won't they?
Well, I think also late in the day here, with the Mets holding a 10-3 lead, a lot of the Red fans have cleared out. And there's as much blue as red in the stands right now.
I wonder, this is a good time here for the bottom of the 9th to bring in Philip Humber to throw an inning.
That's a good call. Humber worked in relief last year when he came up. Big chopper to Brandon Phillips, and a rare out made by Marlon Anderson. That's the first out here in the top of the 9th. So one away. Well, Delgado hit the ball so long and so hard, and it got out so fast. Look at the reaction.
Well,
it's been that kind of day.
Didn't you want to
kind
watch?
of year? Well, maybe not. That's priceless right there from Hatteberg and Phillips. Here's Sean Green, has driven in a couple of runs today with a double and a ground out, 1 for 4. There's a strike. Well, we haven't seen that much of Delgado's book this year.
No, we haven't.
But it just got himself a new chapter. My outstanding road trip. Well, Delgado now has 12 RBIs in his last 9 games. And it is coming at the right time of year. Last year, Carlos got to play in October for the first time, and he had himself a marvelous postseason. at a time really when the rest of the Mets offense went flat in October, especially in the series against the Cardinals.
I just wonder if he's just doing it on his home runs, because he hasn't done it on his outs.
Another chance for Phillips, and Green retired 2 away.
When you see the Yankee final,
7-1, Mariners win it. That gets them within a game of the Yankees and snaps their 9-game losing streak. Felix Hernandez came up big today to get his 11th win as Roger Clemens took it on the chin.
that's a tough lineup in that ballpark there, Yankee Stadium, to hold down the 1 run.
Ichiro had a big day today, even hit a home run off Clemens. Here's Loduca, 0 for 3 and a sacrifice fly. A rather frustrating offensive day for Loduca, who's hit the ball hard 3 times.
Oh.
And he gets hit. Well, that pretty much puts the capper on Loduca's day. An 0-fer on a day when he hit 3 balls hard, and then he gets drilled his last time up. And I would say it's time to get him out of the game. It's 10-3.
Really? You think? Maybe. He's a tough guy.
Yeah, but you're going to play him every day.
He's got that thing on that pad. It hurts, though.
Why wouldn't you let DeFelice catch the last inning?
You could.
So Loduca takes his base, and Andy Chavez will come up for the 2nd time. Andy came in for defense, had an at bat in the 8th inning, and hit a slow grounder to 3rd. And he takes a strike.
So Andy winds up getting 2 at bats, which is good for Andy. I'm sure he's very happy about that. We should probably tell the folks if we get another pitch here. We won't. So we'll forget it.
What are you going to tell him?
No, it's okay.
Come on, give the abridged edition. You got 5 seconds.
Pedro told Kevin when he came out, because I'm very sorry to keep you waiting. I took an extra long shower. Please forgive me.
He's a nice guy, isn't he? Mets have been tacking on today. The Reds are a little distressed. 10-3. After the final out is made, stay tuned for Nissan Postgame Live on SNY, presented in high definition by IO Digital Cable, the leader in HD. Do you see in HD? Aaron Seeley comes on to pitch the bottom of the 9th for New York in a 10-3 game.
Well, we talked about using Philip Humber maybe, but you know what? If you're going to go with Aaron Seeley in postseason, he needs the work. You can see only his 30th game of the year.
Marlon Anderson stays in the game in left field. Andy Chavez moves to center. Carlos Beltran gets the final inning off. So Seeley will hit in Beltran's spot if somehow the Mets had to come to bat again.
$16 hits by the Mets.
Jorge Cantu will be the pinch hitter. Cantu, the former Tampa Bay Devil Ray, picked up by the Reds this summer. And he takes a strike. And Cantu, who was at one time an untouchable in Tampa Bay and star second baseman there. He drove in 117 runs just 2 years ago. But his career took a very swift tumble. Was sent to the minor leagues this year by the Devil Rays and now a part-time player with Cincinnati. It's not often that a guy has 28 homers and 117 RBIs of 1 year, and 2 years later he's a bench player. It's a little odd, don't you think?
A little flash in the pan.
Yes. The following year, last year, he had 14 homers, 62 RBIs, so his numbers were cut virtually in half. And then hit just 207 with no home runs for Tampa Bay before they traded him to Cincinnati. And Cantu's got himself a base hit, leading off in the last of the night. There was a time when the Mets were very interested in Cantu and were willing to give up quite a bit to get him in their continuing search for a second baseman.
Well, I bet you they're glad they didn't.
Well, the Mets were also ready to throw a lot of money at Julio Lugo before the Red Sox signed him.
Which I couldn't believe.
Well, I think the Red Sox very much regret that. They should have held on to the guy they had, Alex Gonzalez, who's had a far better year for Cincinnati than Lugo's had for Boston. Hit to center field. That's a base hit for Hopper. Cantu will go first to third, so Seeley greeted rudely by back-to-back base hits by Cantu and Hopper.
First hit for Hopper. He came in late here, 1 for 2 on the day.
So first and third and nobody out. And here's Alex Gonzalez, who's 2 for 4 on the day, a single and a double.
Did you just hear what a Met fan yelled at Willie?
No. In the air to center field. Chavez is under it. Tagging at third is Cantu. That's the first out in the ninth. Cantu comes home to score. Sacrifice fly for Gonzalez. And that makes it 10-4 New York. And if you're a Cincinnati fan and you're cheering that out, you know, now he'll go back to the dugout and he'll get high fives for driving in a run.
Well,
and I hate that, I have to tell you. It's the bottom of the ninth. You're 7 runs behind. You don't want to trade an out for a run.
No, it's a token.
I guess.
It's the token. Congratulations. Getting back to that fan with the first 2 base hits. You better get someone up, Willie.
Griffey's 0 for 2, a walk and a sacrifice fly today. And Junior with the big cut. 0-1.
7-run lead. You better get someone up.
Well, it's only 6 runs down. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock start here in Cincinnati. Oliver Perez for the Mets, Matt Belisle for the Reds. And then a day game on Wednesday. Mets have Thursday off and then begin a 9-game homestand against the Astros at Shea on Friday night. And Mike Pelfrey's going to open that series for the Mets, coming off that 1-hit performance in Atlanta on Saturday. One and 1 to Griffey. And a good strike at the knees, 1-2.
There's the man of the hour. Was the star of the day on a national audience. With a national audience.
When you're 6'7", you have to bend over in the dugout. You don't want to hit your head.
Well, the Mets are 2 outs away from getting a nice little 5-game bulge.
Were you just yawning?
Yes, I did. I just took a deep breath.
It was half a yawn. It was a yaw. 2-2 to Griffey.
That 5-game bulge is looking good.
Well, 25 games to go after today. And the Mets have certainly put themselves in good position. About to win their 4th in a row after losing those 4 in a row in Philadelphia. Griffey hits it hard right, has it go off his glove. Hopper will go to second and stop there, and Griffey's aboard. David Wright playing that shortstop position in the shift against Griffey. Couldn't field the ground ball cleanly.
Tough in between Hop, and that was a bullet.
And they've scored that a base hit for Griffey. So the 3rd hit of the inning off Aaron Seeley.
But we must be a kinder and gentler nation.
No, I think it's just hometown scoring.
Maybe it was George Bush Sr. that resonated, because it resonated with the scorekeeping in the National League.
Hit to second, should be a double play. Castillo to Reyes, on to first, and the ball game is over. Pedro Martinez has come back on Labor Day in Cincinnati, a success, and a big success for the Mets offense as well, as they bang out 10 runs and 16 hits to get Pedro a victory in his first start coming back from rotator cuff surgery. The Mets win their 4th in a row and stretch their lead to 5 games over the Phillies in the National League East.
Well, they answered the bell after the 4-game sweep here, and look at 4 days later, they've tacked on 3 more games on that lead to 5. And what a lift to have Pedro throw the way he threw today. I thought he threw outstanding.
So the Mets finish it up and take the opener of their series here. The Mets are now 30-15 in first games of series this season. As the only difference today, that line in the WP. Pedro Martinez, his first victory in his first start of 2007. He becomes only the third pitcher in the last 100 years to come back, start for his first time in September, and get a win. Mets win in Cincinnati 10-4.